with a clear path and goal in mind. Workers at Newport News Shipbuilding are sailing through assembling the future John F. Kennedy aircraft carrier.
Right now it's about 3 months ahead of schedule.
The director of carrier construction, Mike Butler, says the ship should be ready to launch in November 2019.
And I think everybody's proud of the fact that when we walk through these gates, nobody in the world but us does what we do.
That sense of service keeps the crew driven as they connect this last keel to the nuclear-powered aircraft. It's taken 4 years to get this far, with an unprecedented level of cost reduction in the budget from one ship to the next. So workers are building the ship in a different way, more efficiently with augmented reality and 3D visuals.
And take a tablet and go around the space and see where everything goes.
The digital technology gets rid of paper drawings, cuts down on work hours, and fits the mission of the ship. A mission to serve 50 years in the Navy and saving $4 billion by running on nuclear and electric power.
Quite a quest seeing this come together.
Sam Carper is the construction superintendent.
Watching the craftsmen and watching the pride that they put into this stuff, it really makes you feel well.
He says building the Kennedy is a unique job the crew takes to heart.
Being able to be part of something like that is amazing.
It's a 21st century job fulfilled in Hampton Roads, building patriotism in the community.
We see that carrier going in harm's way. We know our fingerprints are on it. That's a pretty cool thing.
In Newport News, Megan Shin, 13 News Now.